Welcome. There we go. Hello, everyone. Today is Thursday. What day is it? Thursday, November 3rd, 2022. It's 5:00 p.m. Eastern Time, and this is the monthly meeting of the Human Rights Commission. So welcome, commissioners, guests, and those in the gallery. Why don't we begin just to make sure we're all on the same page. Madam Clerk here handed out these documents that review the open meeting law rules for video recording and public participation, and there's also some posted on the doors. Is anyone planning to record the meeting that's sitting in the gallery? Yes, okay, so let me read all these then. If anyone wishes to record today's meeting, please approach the podium and provide your name and address for the record. Indicate the type of recording device you will be using and the reasonable requirements so as to not interfere with the meeting. If you do not notify the chair that you are recording, then you shall not record the meeting. Do not move around the council chambers while recording, as this is a direct disruption of the meeting proceedings. Video recording shall not occur at the podium, as this is a direct disruption of meeting proceedings. And you shall only operate your recording device in a manner so as not to interfere with meeting proceedings, as this is a disruption of meeting proceedings. This notification shall serve as a clear warning. No other warnings will be issued. If the video recording rules listed above are not complied with, then anyone that doesn't comply and refuses to leave at the request of the chair, a police officer will be authorized to remove disruptive individuals from the council chambers. So whoever would like to record, please come to the podium and indicate the type of recording device you'll be using and state your...
Wayne Rose. I'll be using an iPhone.
Thank you. And your address, Wayne Rose?
I live on Glen Lake Street in Revere.
Thank you.
Do I need to press this button?
No, it's already on, Gina.
Okay, hi. Gina Castiello, lifelong Revere resident. I'm going to keep my residency private even though it's public because I don't feel safe in my community anymore. I will be using my iPhone.
So it is the rules that you need to state your name and address in order to record the meeting.
I'm a lifelong Revere resident.
Okay. So we'll allow that.
Thank you.
So are you both clear? Are you and Mr. Rose clear that you cannot record from the podium or be moving around the room as you're recording? That's clear? Thank you. And now for public participation rules. To address the chair, you will need to provide your name and address for the record. Permission to speak will not be granted if you do not provide your name and address. Speaking without permission of the chair is a disruption of meeting proceedings. 2, conduct of the audience. All persons shall remain silent. Refusal or inability to stay and remain silent during the meeting is a disruption of meeting proceedings. 3, this notification shall serve as a clear warning. No other warnings will be issued. If the public participation rules listed above are not complied with, and someone refuses to leave at the request of the chair, a police officer will be authorized to remove disruptive individuals from the council chambers. So hopefully that's not the case, and we have a harmonious evening and a nice sharing and learning for everyone here. Okay, but we're just stating them so it's on the record and we're all clear of the expectations. So now we'll do a roll call of the commissioners. And commissioners, please feel free to state your pronouns if you would like. Lynn Alexis. Looks like we're having some technical issues. I see Lynn on the Zoom. Here we go. Can we hear you, Lynn? I think you need to put your microphone maybe up a little bit louder, but for now I'll record that you are here remotely on Zoom. Reverend Bogertman,
Present.
Chief Bright,
Present.
Chief Callahan is absent. Dr. Garcia,
Present.
Vice Chair Hosseini is not here yet. I think she might be coming late. Commissioner McGee,
Present. My pronouns are she or her.
thank you. Commissioner Muka Bear, I believe, is not able to attend. Commissioner Pish,
Present.
and I am Chairperson Janine Grillo-Mara, and I use pronouns she and her. And so now we will do a land acknowledgement. And the reason that we do this is to pay tribute to those who were the original stewards of this land. And I'll share my screen. So, we would like to acknowledge the traditional overseers of this land on which this meeting takes place, as well as honor what this land means to the culture and traditions of those who originally occupied this space. In addition, we extend a welcome to any Aboriginal, Native American, and/or First Nation people joining us today. And you can see from the map that Massachusetts, the eastern coast of Massachusetts is in the yellow, and on this next slide, you can specifically see that Revere is sitting on the land of the Pawtucket tribe. And we're also honored to have a Native American with us today. We will introduce her further later, but we're grateful to have Strong Oak Lefebvre with us, and I'll be introducing her more. So let's just take a moment to remember, honor, and respect those who were the original overseers of this land. And now I'm going to share one other slide. So we usually begin by just settling and arriving. And why do we do this? Because we generally go about our day and we communicate with each other from a very cognitive mental space. And so we're just talking words and ideas and concepts at each other. And we forget that we're physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual beings. And so we take these few moments now to simply arrive more fully in presence. And so I'll share just this quote that I think is so perfect for why we do this. Presence is the greatest gift we can bring to the world. So that's presence of body, heart, mind, and spirit. So just in your own way, for maybe a couple of minutes, just find a way to sit that feels comfortable, that feels upright, alert. You can either keep your eyes softly open or close them. And just what's it like to be right here, right now? So sitting in a body, breathing. Hearing, sensing. And if it's helpful for you, you might take some breaths that are a bit slower and deeper. You could even imagine or sense that you could breathe with your whole body, which is a way that can help ground us. And just feel the ground, the earth below, the sense of gravity drawing us down, Mother Earth rising up to support us. And all the blessings that are available in life, whether we're conscious of them or not. So as humans, we're all here suffering and awakening together, living and dying together. May we treat each other with more kindness, dignity, and respect. And now we will state our mission statement together for those that are in person. Please unmute yourself and join me. And for those who would like to see the mission statement, Madam Clerk will share her screen and put that up. Or not. That's okay, I can grab it. That's all right. Okay, here we go. Okay, so it should be. Yeah. Okay, so please join me, Commissioners, unmute yourself. The mission of the Revere Human Rights Commission is to promote human and civil rights and empower all people of Revere by ensuring that everyone, especially the most vulnerable and marginalized, have equitable opportunities, equal access, and are treated with dignity, respect, fairness, and justice. Okay. Thank you.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I just want to remind you all that all persons shall remain silent, so that whether you're yelling something out, speaking the alphabet, the Pledge of Allegiance, making a prayer, chanting to the person next to you, that's considered disruptive behavior. So it's fine that you just chose to stand, but I want to be clear on what the rules are, okay? So we will now move to approve the minutes from the October 6th monthly meeting. And those were sent to the commissioners and have been on our HRC webpage in draft form. So do any commissioners have comments, questions, input? Or if not, we can entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion to accept the minutes, Madam Clerk.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And Lynn, Alexis, can you just give a gesture on Zoom? Thank you. And we do have a quorum of 6 people. And for our monthly acknowledgements, November is Native American Heritage Month. And so with that spirit, we have, for really the bulk of tonight's meeting, a guest speaker and presentation. So I'm so grateful for Commissioner Pish and for Dr. Garcia for their connections and their support, and having Strong Oak Lefebvre with us this evening. Her presentation will be on the Circle Practices of Indigenous People, Truth and Reconciliation. And I'll just read a little bit about her before I hand it over. Strong Oak is the executive director and co-founder of the Visioning Bear Circle Intertribal Coalition, a co-author of the Walking in Balance with All Our Relations teaching curriculum. Strong Oak, licensed social worker, has a master's in social work administration, master's in social service administration from Case Western Reserve University School of Social Work. Transforming communities to embrace restorative practices in dealing with both those who are victimized and those who have victimized others are important aspects of Strong Oak's work. She teaches Circle process to communities, agencies, and providers working with those who are survivors of domestic and sexual violence and those affected directly by homicide, as well as those who are working to return to their communities violence-free after having hurt others. Most recently, Strong Oak has been appointed by the governor of the state of Massachusetts to serve on the statutory Restorative Justice Advisory Committee for a 6-year term beginning November 2018 and lasting until November 2024. She served on the Advisory Council for the National Sexual Resource Center from June 2010 to June 2016. While on the Advisory Council, she was its voting representative to the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape Board of Directors from 2010 to 2013. Strong Oak is currently a peer cohort representing Visioning Bear Circle Intertribal Coalition with the Just Beginnings Collaborative, a funding organization that seeks to build a movement to end childhood sexual assault nationwide. So we're very grateful to have Strong Oak with us this evening, and I'll now hand it to her, and then just please let me know how I can assist you with the PowerPoint presentation.
I guess you could put the PowerPoint up. What I wanted to say, here we are at the Human Rights Commission, and really the goal is that everyone in the community really feel like they have a voice, and that they're not silenced in that voice. And so this is what we're going to talk about today. And just listening to people feeling unsafe at times, it's really a challenge. And when you read the mission, when you read that, I said it really could have been the same mission that we have. It's just a beautiful mission, and it's really hard to live up to it sometimes. So what I'm going to do, if you put up the first slide, and talk about like how we have to transform our communities and transform some of the things we've been taught, you know, because of the structure has always, like the structure of the Constitution itself when it was first formed, wasn't exactly equitable to everyone. Actually, when you look at it, we're a long ways away from those days, but initially the Constitution said that only white property owners could vote or get an education or any of those things. And we've had to go and work with that all this time. And as you know, like Native peoples, there were 40 million of us here, by the way. So if you could do the next slide, I would like to show you. This kind of like what it says there, it's almost, you know, just talking about the impact that the dominant culture had. It was like a culture of scarcity. When people came here, this land was like a beautiful canopy of trees, and it was like, there was no overpopulation. Everybody was living, had a home and all those things, had food. And the people who came here from a place of scarcity. They had experienced a lot of hardship in the place they came. What they didn't have was a frame of reference for dealing with that. You know how you come with your own things that you always believed? It's pretty hard to change those things. So they came here with a feeling of scarcity, and actually they sent a lot of trees home to England because they had deforested the land in England. What was missing was really how to replenish and you know, keep the resource going so that it wouldn't deplete that way. And then when they came and took the land, I see that as when cultures come together and they really don't have a chance to really get to know one another. Like it was like, you know, oranges and apples. When people first came, there wasn't really a way to talk with each other. And when I talk about this, please hold in your heart that this is not about judgment. This is just about how people's beliefs can lead to how they behave, like the values that they hold. And the people that were here didn't have a value of ownership of land at all. So there was no way to really communicate that very well. And so what happened is initially there was, you know, Native peoples here had to really help people to really even know what to eat, how to get the food. The food here was different. I would like to say that not only were the people colonized, but also the land was colonized. What happened is people brought food from their own homes so that they would be able to eat things that they were used to eating. And a lot of the indigenous, you know, fauna and the plants were not known by the people who came here, except for a few things like potatoes and tomatoes and corn and things like that, the Three Sisters. But it's like, when you think about the impact that money has, and probably all of you here probably experience some kind of like trouble making sure you have enough to feed your family, enough income for your housing. When money comes into play, all of a sudden now people can control who gets that money. You know, not everybody gets money equally. And some things are valued more than others. Like some people's gifts aren't valued. And I could even tell from when we were talking, I don't know if you feel like your gifts are all valued and you want to be valued when you come here and you speak so that people will understand what's going on in your life and how things could be more equitable for you in your community and that your needs are addressed. And like, I'm here for that same reason because we were not seen quite as human as other people at first. And people didn't understand how we dressed and how we were. And so we were seen as less than, and many people are seen as less than in our culture. And this Human Rights Commission is here to address those things. But when that economy came into play, think about it, money made sure that the land could be continued to be owned. And it was a very small number of people who really owned it when they think about it. Like really, like maybe, especially at the time, like 1% maybe really owned property. And they wanted to hold on to that property. And then after a while, they wanted all of it. And we kind of know the truth of that, but it's hard to come to grips with. And I think we do need to speak the truth of that. And when we speak the truth of that, it's so that we walk together in a good way. I wanted to go to the next slide so people can see what happened with Native peoples in a picture that I couldn't possibly be able to talk to you about. That is what a boarding school looked like, what you see. When you look at the people all dressed the same and not in the clothes in which they grew up with, and they're all separated out from their families. Those, like 75% of all the children were in these boarding schools by 1930, and the last of them didn't close till 1984. So when you look at this, you see that's an institutionalized mind being set up. This was the plan to assimilate. And imagine being in like one person in all of that. I'd like to save the questions. Let's see, let me go to my picture to see if it even says anything about it. No, and there's another one. And my own father, by the way, was in a boarding school. I believe this one's in Canada. But, you know, Carlisle, everyone knows that these boarding schools were all around. And you can imagine that some of the people had good intentions about this, because at first it was Indian removal. All of these things are historically accurate. You know, the Indian Removal Act is an actual act where it was intended that all the Native peoples be not here anymore. But that didn't happen, and instead they sought to assimilate us. And so this is another one, that trauma lives in people's DNA. You know, a lot of us know now that there's adverse consequences for children growing up with trauma, and it's in your DNA, and they've proven that, you know, scientifically, with traumatizing like a rat in a certain way, and then long after the trauma is removed, all they have to do is hear the sound and it brings it all back. But I look at that as a good thing because it means that we can all heal up whatever we've had. We're all descendants here in this room, all of us. And like we can make things good. We can make things with each other be the way it might have possibly happened if we had been able to have a means of talking across cultures. And so I'll move to the next slide. Okay, next one after that. Yes, this circle practice that you see the slide up there, I'm going to go over some of it because I don't know if you can see it too well, but right in the middle it says listening with intently and building trust. The main thing to do that is in the circle practices, we go like sunwise around the circle because that's how we come into the world. We come into the world, the first thing we do is take in air, then we gather some temperature, then we gather water, and then we gather substance. And when we leave, we go the opposite. It's sort of like a way of relating to the whole cosmos. But what it is that when you have the talking piece, we pass a talking stick around. And when that person has that stick, only they can speak in that moment, and they cannot be judged. They cannot be yelled at or, made to feel like their voice isn't worthwhile or corrected or any of those things. It's like you listen intently to what someone's saying. Even if you don't agree with them, you listen to what is the story behind that? Why do people feel the way they do? It's important to hear their story. And when you feel heard, like if you feel fully heard, then you're more open to hear somebody else. So when we go around the circle, it's like when the circle comes to you, when the talking piece comes to you, then you can speak your heart and you can say what you need to say and expect that other people will listen to you with the same fullness, that they will listen to you and not be thinking about what they're going to respond. It's really a skill and it's hard to do. I struggle with it every day. It's like when you hear something, you want to retort. So in your head, you're thinking about what to say next. And meanwhile, 2 or 3 people have gone by and you haven't heard a thing they've said. So listening to every single person without needing to judge them, not needing to agree with them, but really fully listening to where they're coming from. And more than that, allowing for that to flourish. Like when we do circles, we get more deep than that. People begin to share from their heart, and they begin to shift and change when you hear people's stories. You say, oh, I didn't think of that. I've never experienced that. And you get to care about your fellow neighbors and things. And to me, this is the case. If we want really have safe communities and we want to live in a place, we need to build that trust in our neighborhoods and get to know our neighbors. So when you look at the circle practice, we always start out with looking at peace and justice, and some of the things I said related to that, like 2 cultures coming together, people not understanding. And when you look at where we are right now, it's my way or the highway, or it's all or nothing. It's really that way. There's always losers, and the winners don't really win because they have half of the people not with them. So it's important to find a way that everyone comes out feeling like they've gotten something, they have a voice, they've been heard, and if everybody can feel good about something, they have a buy-in into what's going on. They feel a part of it, not separated out from it, and worse than that, angry and upset and unheard. So this circle really addresses that. And so when we talk about the respect after the peace and justice, the respect is not only about us and our families, but everybody's families. It's about all of the plants and animals that we live with. It's about keeping everything good for everyone. It's thinking 7 generations down the line. And then when we talk about living our life in balance, it means that none of us should have to work like 2 jobs to put food on the table. We need to have time with our families. We need to have time for ourselves. We need to have a world in which that's possible. And then when we talk about courage, it's like you coming here and you want to speak to people in the commission that have some power in the community, and you want to be heard, and you want to address, your concerns and have them heard. And like, so when you think about that, it's like you give respect to get respect, then you respect everyone as even. Even if somebody has a role here, you're just as important as every single one. Everyone in the circle is equal to everyone else. And everyone, what they do in their life, whatever kind of work they do, it's equal to everyone else's work in life. And like in our organization that I come from, I don't get any more money than the people who come and train with me, and we all get the same amount of money. We've built it into the culture of our organization. So everyone gets the same money. If you're a volunteer and you're sitting in a circle with us, your voice counts and you have a vote. So I just want to say there's a lot of ways this circle is an equity built into it. And then the courage to speak, though, it's like being honest and finding a way to be honest with love and compassion. That's the key. When you're upset about something, it's important to see what you want to have happen. Do you want it to get better? Do you want people to stay connected? Or are you really out for some kind of way of revenge or something, and then you're not in a place of love? I've seen that in my work. I've done a lot of work, and survivors sometimes aren't in a place yet to be apologized to. They have to move through the anger they have. Sometimes it's just not right time. So when you're angry, it's good to just see that you are and wait a moment before you're going to go and try and make the change. And you don't have to engage in trying to fix the person who did harm. It's mostly fixing yourself is the best, thing. The first thing you have to do is look at, at where you are. And then when you can come to a place that you can actually work towards the change of that other person, that you wish for them to change, and you are there for them in their healing, that's a really intense kind of community. That's when things are really healthy. And then to have the humility to realize that none of us, I'm not more important than you, and you are not more important than me. We are just together human beings trying to live in harmony and trying to have a life that makes sense for us. And then when we have that compassion and we can put ourselves in someone else's shoes, we know we're on the right path. Like, what would we do and what would we want if one of our homes were destroyed in a fire? How would we want our community to respond to that? I have to say, what I see is people really, really do respond well to those things. All of a sudden, we come together and we really help each other out. If we could help each other out like that every single day, it doesn't have to take a big crisis to do that, then we might be getting somewhere. And then when we have empathy, like when you look at Native peoples living here, seeing these ships come in, people who don't look like us, and all of a sudden they're coming in and taking all our land and rousting us out of our homes. Not one of us would want that to happen to us. We're looking at what goes on in Ukraine. We don't want to see that happen there. None of us wants to be rousted out of our space. I mean, you grow a little attached, right, to where you live. It's like your community, it's your home. And you need to feel a sense of sanctuary in your heart, a place to go at the end of the day where you can, just rest and nourish yourself and our children. And so then when we move after that, we go to looking at the wisdom that we all have. Like, we have a responsibility to take our gifts and share them. Like, not hoard them, not compete, not hold back something, because those gifts come to us from, I like to call, Geminido is what I refer to it. Like, these gifts come from the Creator, and we're supposed to share them. We're supposed to allow for our children to be the best they can be, to recognize that they have dreams, they came here, they have their own reasons why they came here, And we need to listen to see what that is and what we can do for them. So this is what this is about. And then, like, in looking at indigenous things, we want to be part of the community. We want to be in your life. We want you to understand us and to recognize that we're not interested in, we can't go back, but we can go forward. And we can build, and we can honor those that were here without losing anything ourselves. And like, how can we make it so everyone feels honored? That's a key. When we think about, like looking at the whole thing around Indigenous Day and Columbus Day, there's a way there to make everybody happy. And I think these circles, they are a means by which everyone could share how they felt about it. Like a feeling of loss or, I've had this all my life. I don't want to lose this. And yet to acknowledge the people that were here, to heal the community of Native peoples that were here, because we carry a lot of pain, I gotta say. Every day in my life, I have some pain around these things. Just being heard as a Native woman, we can really see how you're really listening to me, and I appreciate it very deeply. And for us to be able to talk about the rivers and the streams in the same way in which, anyway, and it's really for the little one there, We need to make sure she's got some trees to enjoy when she grows up and clean water too. So anyway, it's like, and then connecting to the land, making sure that all of us can go to the waters and enjoy the beach, that all of our children have places to play, and that we can teach them the magic of like being with the plants and animals and to experience that. And like these circle practices, they're not just for Native peoples. They're for everyone. Sometimes people say to me, it would be appropriation for us to take these circles. We think that, like, say, even in these meetings, if you had something really contentious you needed to deal with, you could say, hey, let's have a circle about it, and then we could, come around and everyone would be able to get their word in. And then we'd go back, and then you feel like not left out of a process or voted out of a process. Or something like that. I got to say, in our circles, we really work for consensus. So, and like these structures, they're a little tough for me sometimes, to come to a place where these are not how our community makes these decisions. We always come in circle. We always do what I said. We go around with the talking stick. And we resolve conflicts as they come up so they don't linger. So we don't have people at, like, say, at Visioning Bear, in Circle Intertribal Coalition, harboring things from month to month. It's like dealt with when it comes up and we resolve it and we move on. And like in our neighborhood, it's getting, to know our relationships. If we go to the next slide, you'll see kind of a cool example of like how to be Indigenous in a city. It's like, we went to, there was an event about Idle No More, and it was about climate and things like this. But we went, this is downtown Northampton. It was cold, cold, cold. I mean, it was bad cold. I don't even recognize myself. I had so many layers of clothes on. It was so cold. And but we sang in the city. Everybody of all cultures, we were dancing in the round dance. And if we go to the next slide. And let's see. Next slide. Oh, wait a minute. Is that the next slide, or did it go too far? Yeah, it is the next slide, okay. This is what the circle process is about, what I was saying. It's non-hierarchical because it's a circle. There's no beginning or end in a circle. There's no sides in a circle. I like to say that. There's no sides. There's listening, because of the structure of it. It's healing, just to be in it. And I consider that the circle itself is really sacred to me. All our ancestors are in this room right now. In you is all your ancestors. They're all listening to all of this. My ancestors are here. What we're doing is, we're not just us. we're in our bloodlines are connected to everyone else, our grandparents, our folks that have crossed into the spirit world already. They're here with us. And you probably have felt that sometimes, you know, where like you're somewhere and all of a sudden you feel like someone that has crossed into the spirit world you feel connected to. And they're with you in the moment, especially at special occasions. Or they come like a little bird comes and they seem to remind you of your grandmother or somebody. But I'm saying that's real. It's like those things are real. And that it's transformative and changing stuff when you go in a circle. And you have to experience it, and I'm hoping that you will experience it at some point, that we'll be able to have that. Yeah, and it's yeah. Yeah. Okay. And it's decolonizing. I call it decolonizing because I feel like we've all been hurt by it. It's everyone, all the races have been hurt by this, not just, and it's more a way of life. You know how if you sit down with your children around the table, or I don't know if somebody, watches Blue Bloods, I like their table, where the family sits around the table and they all share their thoughts, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm not a big, I do watch a lot of police shows, I have to say. I have to go to the confessional and say I do watch those. But I like that when you see that all the family gets to share like that. And that to me, this is what this is. It's a way of life. Like if I'm like in the woods, I'm responsible for what I do there. And I'm responsible for how I treat the things that are there. Okay, next slide. Am I doing okay with time? Okay. This is too what the circles looks like. It really takes into account your physical needs, your mind, the way you think, your feelings have room, and that there's a connection to spirit, like all of you is in the circle. And when you see here with the teachings around, this is what we use when we teach our curriculum. We have a circle keeper, and then we have people, and we put the teachers, and 4 of them in the direction so that they're not seen as the big cheeses, that we're all just having a conversation. And so, next slide. And this is the part that's important. Like say you have a problem you're working on and you wanted to do it in circle, you'd have to introduce each other. And really what we often do is to build trust in some of the groups we do, we ask people how they got their name, because often that's important. It already brings in your culture, it brings in how come, how important it is when you name a child, you really think about it. And so we introduce ourselves by saying why we're there and also how we got our name. And then to build trust, we ask where people are from, and we ask them to draw that. And then we ask, who are your people, so that we know what supports people have. And people answer that all very different ways, but by the time that's all done, we kind of get a sense of each other. It's easy to remember names when you go through that. You tend to say, oh, because someone told you how they got their name. And it's building trust. Then you identify your issues. Like if there was a big thing that happened here in this area and you needed to address it as a community, or there was a big violation of someone's rights, you would identify that issue and then you would seek solutions for it. And if you've built trust together, and you might even care more about someone's issue if you knew about their culture, how they got their name, how they fit in with the community, you would care very much about what happened to them, and you would be interested in seeking solutions for them to feel or address whatever harm happened to them. So that's, next slide. I hope I'm explaining this well. Okay, these are the circles, whoops. These are the order in which we do it. I think I went through all of them with you, pretty much. And the gratitude at the end, I didn't say much about that. Even when you're having a bad time, like right now I have problems with my hip and I need to have that addressed. So what I do is I'm grateful that I'm walking, or I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. Whatever I can be grateful for changes how I look at these things. And then the generosity is when I have extra, and I do this, like if somebody I knew needed a starter for their car, and they were like living, with, on general assistance or something like that, for them, it would take months to save up for that starter, when I can just give one because I have the extra. I do that. I don't, I really have a good view about money. I only see it as what it can do. Because like if we were in a mess, like what in some cases, all it can do is start a fire and keep you warm. Because in some cases, it doesn't really help you any. So next one, because I think I kind of went through all these. And yeah, the general way the circles work is you always, welcome people in, address how the talking piece is used. We use an eagle feather, and it's because there's a difference between honesty and truth. And a lot of what we call the 7 grandfather teachings are knit into everything that I showed you. The 7 grandfather teachings are in circle process, the way in which Native peoples organized our lives. And to this day, this is what we do. These are our traditions. These are our beliefs, right? So when we do this check-in round, like in the 7 grandfather teachings, honesty is not the same as truth. But you can't get to the truth unless you're honest. So would you say your honest thing, no matter if it's not popular, but it's your honest belief? You say your honest belief, and you bring it forward with an eye to that you're going to change. I think I want to explain this a little more, give you a Native view of it. Like in our creation stories, and it's consistent with the Big Bang or whatever, and it's consistent with all other people's religions, we think, because it starts with one being, and that one being is alone in the universe and sends out the word, sends out a vibration. So when the vibration kept building until it became a spark, and the spark kept growing bigger and bigger, and then finally the spark came back on, I'll call it Gemini-Do because that's what I refer to the crater as, but it came back and hit Gemini-Do. Then it twinned him and separated him like we're separated out now, and we're still trying to go home, right? So think about this in terms of transformation. Because we're here today, we're going to be changed by what we heard today. And like when we talk to each other, we're heard. Now, in the creation of the world, and Gemini-Do with the spark, speaking to the spark, created the moon. Then the moon, the spark, and Gemini-Do create the sun. Then the sun, and they all talk, and everything keeps changing. And it shows like how over time things keep moving and transforming. It's sort of like when a grain of sand gets stuck inside the oyster, it becomes a pearl because they can't get rid of each other. Well, let's say Native peoples and other peoples, we can't get rid of each other now. We're in it together. We have to figure out a pearl out of all of this, and that's what my thing is saying. So then when you look at the topics, like say we were going to talk about what to do about Indigenous Day, and what we were going to do to make sure that people who, have grown up with Columbus feel okay too, we would have that topic of discussion, and we would go around. And we would go around, and Native people, we would go around forever. We don't do time. So I've been in some circles that lasted 8 hours. People would fall asleep in them and then come back in. I mean, it was just, we just don't do the time. And then at the end, you just look at where are we? And actually I joke because in the Onondaga, what they did, they have an elaborate system of peace, the Great Law of Peace. If they can't solve it, in the end, they play a lacrosse game, and whoever wins gets whatever it is they wanted because they couldn't figure it out. I guess there's some thorny issues like that. Next one. I think we're close to the end of my... Yeah. I wanted to... It says it's all about relationships, right? Now, a friend of mine, she was a drummer and a storyteller with a group of She met at the Section 8 housing in Greenfield, Leiden Woods. And she said, gee, I wish, she said that the children who all were learning how to play the violin, and they were also doing storytelling and dancing. She said, gee, some of the children were coming in after school and sharing these really deep problems. Some of them were even reporting that they were being sexually abused and they didn't feel comfortable, and they were feeling safe enough to talk about it there. So she said, I wish we could have a parents group, or we wish, I said, well, we can do that. Vision Bear, we can do that. And we brought in our circles with the parents, and it made a huge difference. And we brought that in place with Section 8 housing, which is hard to get into. And then what we were doing was building the capacity of the community to do its own circles, to address the issues that were going on. And there was a lot of empathy there, like they were trying to deal with the drugs that were in the community. So what they had some empathy for the folks. So what they wanted to do is they wanted their children to be able to play with each other, and they wanted to be safe, and they wanted to make sure that the parents knew that maybe they thought they could make money for their families in this way, but in the end, it risked their families all together, because if they were caught, they'd lose the housing, probably lose their family for a while. So in the long run, they needed to find other ways. But they had the empathy, and because they had the experience of being able to see things that way. So I hope that, kind of gives you an idea of what's possible. You can use circles for anything, even deciding what movie you're going to go to. So next slide. Yeah, and these are the children are still performing today, and they're playing the violin. And, okay, these, next slide just shows all the different ways that you can get circles together. Like you could train youth to do them. You can address all these issues as a community, and you can use it to resolve conflicts between residents. And you can, actually design garden plots or whatever so that people get to know each other. And where I am in Western Mass, we often have community gardens for people who are reentering from prison, and the neighbors to be able to garden together so that people aren't really afraid of each other. So that they can see the humanity and become part of the community. So anyway, there's no limit to what can happen with these circles. I think, is that my last slide? No, one more. Oh, yeah. We had to figure out a way to evaluate that so we could get funding. You know how that goes. So the 4 quadrants you see, you probably won't be able to read it, so I'll let you know. In the right hand where it says the goal, it says uphold the perspective that harm can be healed and prevented, and that it's not inevitable or irreparable. And then on the upper part of that, it says frame harm and violence in ways that account for their systemic aspects, and issue broad invitations for participation in the program, engage in community relationships and program development in ways intended to prevent violence. And then next one down, support others to identify their truths and have voice in decisions that affect their lives. Sometimes people have a hard time, pinpointing exactly what they want to say sometimes, and there needs to be room for that. So communicate needs and desires around intimacy and other interpersonal activities or encounters, and make space for the most marginalized voice to be heard, which is right in the mission statement. And Circle guarantees that person doesn't have to fight for their voice. Because, when the popcorn happens, some voices are more heard than others because some people are more comfortable speaking than others. So you need to make room for the quiet ones, right? And then facilitate connection between people and among people, Mother Earth and all other beings. And to the left of that, it says interrupt harm with healthy intent for all involved, or a healing intent. Work through conflicts with courage and honesty. Listen to others without interrupting or judging them, and create spaces and opportunities to decrease isolation of people from each other and other beings. And then up on top it says cultivate compassion empathy, reciprocity, and respect in all our relations to Mother Earth and all beings. And then treat Mother Earth, plants, and animals like they have the same rights as human beings. Engage in relationships based on reciprocity with all beings, and relate to others based on empathy and compassion. So that's, actually, that took 6 years to develop that, what you see there. So when we do our circles, we can actually measure if they're working. You can change those 4 key questions in the middle there. Like if you were working on something, you could decide which 4 things you're measuring to see if there's change. And then when people speak, you will see, like we record those, like these meetings are recorded, but we record our meetings so that we can validate that this is happening, and then we don't have people's names attached to it, and then we destroy the tapes afterwards, but we have the data so we can prove that these circles are effective, which they are. And next slide. Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole point, is creating leadership. People feel like they'll actually come and be a part of the community, and like you are right here, sitting here, you're a part of what's going on here. And then if you listen and work and really don't see anyone in the room as not part of you. There might be people sitting up here, but we're all part of this, except me, I'm from someplace else, but we're all part of the community. Like everyone here needs to hear. This meeting wouldn't happen without you. It just wouldn't be the same if no one shows up. It would be wonderful if someday all your seats are filled because everyone's engaged in the process. And that would come when you feel like that you're a part of it, and there's collaborative, there's work to be done, there's ways to cooperate, and there's ways for you to engage in some things and take some leadership. Next one. Okay, this one is one that we use. It's like across, like everyone, maybe have even seen this before, but the community accountability is where we're all at. It's like we're all a part of what happens here, the decisions and things we do, whether we vote, whether we don't vote, whether we engage in coming to meetings where decisions get made. That's community accountability, and that we're responsible for keeping the community safe. You know, not the police department. They come in when it's messed up, you know, when harm's been done. They have to come in and try to keep us safe, but it'd be nice if we were safe already and they didn't have to come out. Maybe we have a basketball league instead. It's like, or we have community activities where everyone feels like everybody's together. And then we need to address like things that happen in our community that are not right, and do it in a safe way. Cell phones really help with that now, because you don't have to put yourself in jeopardy. You can call and say, I saw this, but then now you got to be careful, because now we see what happens with some people when they do call the police. It's not always a safe thing. For some people, especially people of color, haven't felt particularly safe when they call the police. But it's like, if you engage in a safe way, ask people what help they need, and then make sure when you engage in, you know, calling the police that you say, we're just concerned about this person's welfare. You know, or if you know they have a mental health issue, to say, we're not able to handle that, but maybe you know somebody who can, or you can come and make sure. I think that's some of the things that are happening now. People are trying to get support for the police so that they have like professionally trained people for domestic and sexual violence. A lot of police departments. I worked in a police department in Athol where I was a civilian advocate. So all those calls came to me and I followed up with them. And then I would help out the police when they needed something. I would stay with someone in the police department while they went out and did something, you know, so I was working with a child or a family in the police department. It's about not seeing people as the other. It's about seeing people as trying to do a job, and that we're all in it together. I think that's the last slide. And if we have room, you know, for some questions from anyone.
Thank you so much, Strong Oak. I also want to mention that Strong Oak has been very generous in sharing this PowerPoint presentation. So it will be on our HRC webpage so that you'll have access to the PowerPoint slides if you're interested. And Strong Oak, I don't know if you have a preference. We sort of are in the beginning of building a relationship with you and partnering with you and sort of looking forward to doing more work in the coming year around this circle process and working with the community. So do you have a preference of hearing from commissioners first or hearing from the community? You know, we have some time, so.
Whoever wants to speak first, whether from the commissioners or from,
Okay.
you know,
I
people
want to
here.
make sure everyone has an opportunity.
Yeah.
So is there anyone on the commission that wants to, that feels you want to speak? Or I'll come back to you, you'll have another opportunity.
So.
And I also, I want the record to reflect that Vice Chair Hosseini arrived at 5:40, so she is here in person. Did someone, Vice Chair?
Thank you very much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. It really gave me some advice of how to create circles within my own community at my university. My question is, do you have advice on how to invite people who don't necessarily have like a traumatic experience or like connection to a particular problem, just like inviting anyone who doesn't even have a connection to a problem and telling them, here, come learn more about this particular issue or like particular situation? Because I feel like a lot of the times when we, well, at least in my experience at my university, when I create circles, people already have some sort of experience to talk about. But how do we reach out to individuals who don't have a connection to what we're talking about, but we would like for them to have that connection? If you understand, I don't know if I said my question correctly.
I heard two parts, and I gotta make sure I heard it correctly. Maybe people aren't, you know, coming from a place of trauma, and how to involve them in circle. Because literally, if we were all living our lives in circle, we might not have trauma. That's the point. If we did prevention, circles are great for prevention. And they're great for making sure, they're great leadership development model. Because when you get people together in a circle, you find out all the different skills people had that you didn't know they have. And like when you're like we use it just to have fun. I have to say, to me, what I love about prevention is you don't have to talk dead on about a problem. You're really kind of preventing the problem from happening in the first place by having healthy activities or coming up with ways in which things are just better for everyone. Like even like say we were in a university, even like allocation of housing, like the equitable distribution of housing in the community, or if there's not enough housing, you know, really working at, you know, how to make that everyone have a place. And to do it in circles, it's a great idea, because otherwise people feel like, well, how come this didn't happen for me? You know, hard feelings come up. It's like if you say, this is how many units we have, and this is how many students that we have. And then you ask the community, well, what's the best way to allocate this? You know, how do we do that? Do we decide that seniors should have, you know, the first choice, or do we suggest that maybe seniors can live off campus, and how can we make that happen? You see how it would become a complicated issue that's just solving a problem. It's not based on trauma, it's based on lack of resources. Or like if you were trying to figure out, you know, something you wanted to do in your community. Even, you know, it doesn't have to be a trauma. Like you say, we would like to do this, and you want input from everyone. You invite everyone to it, and whoever comes, that's who gets to do it. But then if people find out that people are really being heard, more people will want to come. And like, you know, I'm thinking about the cherry trees that got taken down in Northampton not too long ago. I don't know if you heard about this. They were these cherry trees, and they were widening the road but the whole community wanted those cherry trees to stay. They would love them. So they all got together and they all tried to go to court and try to they all galvanized around that, out of love for those trees. And, you know, cherry trees, they were healthy and they're superfood. They're like one of those things that are really healthy for you. And it made them address the bigger issue of what happens. Why does it have to be that all the roads are widened whenever they go and do them? And that's coming from a government, like a federal government rule that they have to go by, but it doesn't always meet the community's needs. And it may not be that the road needed to be widened at all, but it comes from some place who don't see your neighborhood. And like, so having meetings and like talking about that as a community, you know, I think in the end, the sad part that happened there was that they knew the judge, it was going to be, the decision was imminent, like within a minute they were going to make the decision, and they came in and took the trees down before that could happen. But now they got to plant some new trees. So it was like, you know, sometimes you can't pull a fast one when the community gets involved. That's, I'm just saying, it's like you invite who has an interest in to the thing, like if you wanted to make sure, like say that a campus was safe, it's like, you know, working with the community there and inviting students and staff to weigh in on what that would look like. What if there's an infraction? How are we going to handle it? You know, especially now that Title IX got gutted. You know what I mean? It's just like some of these things are community-based approaches that can creatively work to make this place safe, even if we didn't have the same kind of oomph with Title IX that we had before. Those are just examples that come up over and over and over again, you know, where people have to make a decision as to what's going on in their own neighborhood. And, you know, like the seal, that was something that's been a conversation, took a long time for people to recognize that seal wasn't exactly feeling good for Native Americans for that seal, but there was a lot of attachment to it. But I think people have come up, you know, and listened to stories over and over. Some things take a while, and like some people may still not be happy about it, but it's like in the end, when people come together and they all choose something they all like, that pain gets forgotten. People move on. You know, I mean, I don't like change so much. I mean, especially now that I'm older, you know. Some things I don't want to see change. But it's like, but in the end, we have to be open to it because young people have whole different needs than we had. Some of us older ones, when we went to school, we had different issues. It wasn't, I didn't have to worry about some of the things that children have to worry about today when we were in school. What happened to us that is not as safe as it used to be? Those are the things. How can we make it go back to being safe? And what would that look like, you know?
That's a great question that's going on in our schools. Ask Mr. Garcia, he'll tell you. Critical race theory, not good. Not good.
So, Gina, do you have something you want to say at the podium that has to do with the presentation? So I ask that you keep this to, that we have a guest speaker, so to keep it like along the lines of the presentation.
Thank you so much, Strong Oak. I really enjoyed listening to you. I could agree on so many things you said, but I hope that we could agree on disagreeing, different perspectives of certain things that you've said. You talked about truth. This Human Rights Commission is not representing truth. They're pushing an agenda. It's an overabuse of power. But we can talk about that in the future. I'd love to. I'd love to meet with all of you. I'm ignored. I'm disrespected. And if you want to talk about truth, I have been waiting for answers from a Zoom meeting from May of 2021 for my city council to address this Human Rights Commission, and I'm still ignored. They had circles. It went nowhere. When you have Human Rights Commission, it's not based on the color of your skin to push an agenda through the school system with critical race theory.
Gina.
What?
About the presentation.
This is about the presentation. It's about truth. And if you have a Human Rights Commission, well, the presentation, she also talked about Christopher Columbus. This commission is solely responsible for Indigenous People Day. Where is the respect for history? I thank you for when the Pilgrims landed here. They escaped religious asylum, and they made a beautiful Thanksgiving Day treat that we all learned by, and that's the way it should be. But it's not. There's an agenda being pushed here. I strongly disagree with it, and I will stand up for the United States Constitution because we are a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy. The democracy comes from a non-governmental organization run by the United Nations. This body does not belong in Revere, Massachusetts. Respect all human rights. That's that. Enough is enough. That's clear. And I'm disrespected, I'm sorry. And I know you're a doctor.
Excuse me, your time is up. Thank you, Gina. And
And I have a right to be angry because this is my community. I'm 65 years old. And I love
so
this community.
do you want to continue to be disruptive? I'd rather not have to have you leave.
But I have to, no, I'm not disruptive.
Okay.
You just don't like what I
Okay.
say, Janine Villamaro.
Okay, so please escort this person out so she's not listening and she's being disruptive. So, let's call a recess, clear the room. Here we are. Welcome back. We apologize for the disruption in needing to clear the room. And as I had said earlier, the PowerPoint slides of Strong Oak's presentation will be on our HRC webpage, and we will be looking forward to do more work in the future for this. We do have one guest in the room. Would you like to speak? Would you like to come up to the podium? Yeah, wait till you come up and just state your name and address, please.
Yes,
Thank
good
you.
evening to everyone. My name is Tatiana Garcia, and I was invited by some colleagues and some another member with whom I am working. And really, I was waiting for this meeting because it's a civil rights. And for me, this means a lot. Because being in USA for 27 years now, I passed so many things. And listening to this professional, firstly what I saw was her name, Walk.
Strong Oak.
Walk, yes. And I remember my first book that when I was little, like 9, 10 years old, I find the book was named Sad Walk. And I was very interested in what's going on in another side of this world because I'm from part of Russia. And after I read this book, I put in my mind one day just I would like to meet these people in this land. And this happened to me. Like it says, my wish is my command from The Secret. And I was listening for your plan. And what I want to say is the following. We are in the educational system. I was working in the educational system, and some people know me so well in this room. Still the first days, I was just horrified how the system is working. Because I was teaching in different countries, in different languages and continents. And some people make me crazy. Some people agree with me. Some people fire me. Some people chase me. That's why I came, because it's human rights. I was intimidated. Still I get sick. And Miss Strong Walk was trying to giving you so much interesting program, interesting system that I guess you proposed this for your system. I don't know from where you are really. I wish to know more. And what I want to say, you cannot integrate system like this in our school.
Excuse me, I just want to remind you, so I have to be fair to
Yes.
everyone that speaks.
Yeah.
So just be mindful of
How
how
many
much time
minutes?
you're using, like if you could just maybe
Yeah.
another minute or two,
Yes, yes.
just to keep things lean, because then it's not fair for
Yes,
the
3
people
minutes,
that
that's
I
fine.
that I didn't allow to speak longer.
Yes, I don't
Okay,
want to take your
just a
time.
reminder.
3-4 minutes, it's fine. Probably less. And what I want to tell you, because we are an indoctrinated system, and everyone from you knows this. Yes, Mr. Garcia? Yes, Miss, here? We are in indoctrinated system. And from long time ago, from 20 years ago, I'm listening because we'd like to move to unified system of education in USA. That will be wonderful. Because our country is going from this level, it's going down, down, down in international level. And you know what I'm talking about. We are sitting in math, in sciences and everything, like in theories, something places. And system like this, ideas like this will not work. Because if you are in this organization, in human rights organization, you have to unify all probably around Revere, around Massachusetts, to connect to everybody, to make sure how you can implement what citizen needs, know what doctrine needs. Because I remember in the past, Mr. Kapitsa, one of the highest scientists in the world is living in Russia till today. He came here and Mr. Bush was like around 10 years ago. And when he was visiting schools around, Mr. Bush was telling him, because when he asked what's going on in your system, because I don't see the program that can hire like to be international standards, Mr. Bush said, we don't need intelligent people, we need workers. And from here, you have to realize, because we are talking, but we don't have no essentials. We have to move to something more substantial in order to change education, to change racism in schools too. Because honestly, still I was teaching in schools, I was meeting only one Native American teacher. Till today, no one, only one. And more things.
You just need to wrap up your
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
because we're going off on sort of education right
yes.
now, and we're trying to keep this to the
Yes,
to the
my suggestion is
presentation.
the following. Next time when you make your meetings, please, this one should be full of people invited, people from any sort of system, from Boston, from here. You have to stay together to make some differences, because this doesn't work. And you know very well what's going on. I have so much stuff to say, but this is just a suggestion.
So actually, why don't we have a webpage on the city website, and you can actually contact us through there. You can write a lengthy email, you can write all your
I understand,
suggestions,
yes.
and then we can follow up for further conversation.
Yeah.
So it's sort of beyond what we're here tonight, but we are interested. So I just ask you to, or if you need to, if you call City Hall and just say you're trying to reach the Human Rights Commission, they'll get you in touch with me, and then I can share the information. So I would just suggest that you please do that, so we can hear from you, and you have a chance to put all your thoughts and suggestions, together.
Well, we can make it. I will see. Just I was accidentally invited here today. I didn't know where I'm going, really. And that's why. But the next suggestion is only one. Please, protect our children in today's day in all schools from everything. This is only, I please, to everybody to protect children from everything what's going on around.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So we have a guest in Zoom that would like to speak.
Good evening.
Yes, your name is it correct, Lisa Garcia, as I see it on the screen?
Yes, thank you.
And are you a Revere resident?
Yes.
Okay. And just so that we can be fair with everyone, I ask you to be mindful of your comments, how long you take, and if you can try to keep it to the agenda tonight and the presentation tonight, whether you have questions or comments for Strong Oak or something that had to do with the presentation, that would be great, and I'll keep an eye on the time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so very much. I'll keep it extremely brief. The taxpayers should not have to pay for this kind of bullshit.
Excuse me, we'll have to mute you because we're not going to have people swearing at the meeting. Thank you. So I thought that I saw on the slides about the circle process that there was compassion. There were certain words on there that, for some reason, we're happy to hear comments, but it doesn't seem like people were speaking in very compassionate ways or necessarily considering other people's perspectives. So we have work to do so that we can all learn how to engage in this kind of circle communication. And hopefully this is one step. And again, we thank you so much, Strong Oak. But does anyone else on the commission have anything to add? We're actually getting close to sort of around the time we like to finish. But if there's any final comments, or same thing for you, if you have any final comments, Strong Oak.
I do have some. It's like, I was just thinking about how, what I'm thinking about is really that all the children in school need to have all their histories told. truthfully. And there's history as a topic in the school. And that circles are actually a part of the school so that children are not in detention centers where they're not being addressed for, the problems and the whole climate of the school for their, to not be bullying in the school, that it be addressed and that there be accountability with an aim towards changing the whole culture of the school to be a respectful place where any child could feel safe going to school. These circles are being embraced in circles all over the country as a means of not throwing people into detention hall, or worse, suspending children so that they have a pipeline to the prison system. And the Human Rights Commission has to deal with those children, the ones who are black and brown, who are not getting the same treatment in the schools. And that's just a fact of how things are. And like for all the children to learn how to respect each other so that no one is bullied and that people don't get longer suspensions from school. I mean, we know exact example of one that we intervened with where a young boy, based on what is it all right to give a specific like this? Like one of the things that we had to come in and intervene with is that there was a young boy, his black child, and he was humiliated in the classroom by a teacher. And he walked out, how children mutter under their breath. They're not meaning to, he said, I wish I could, slap her in the face or something like that, but he was not going to do it. It was like one of those things you say, but a white child repeated what he said to the teacher, who then suspended him. And then when the mother came to the school to talk to the staff about what happened to her child, that child got more suspension, like double. So that mother contacted the NAACP, it would be like the Human Rights Commission, and then we ended up writing a letter after we talked to the mother whose words needed to be heard. She needed to be able to have her voice heard in the school, but instead she told me all about it. We made sure all of her words were in place. We met with the superintendent, we met with all the staff. We ended up having a circle in the school. That child would have had a record for all of his life. They don't take that off your record. So we got that child taken off the record. That was, and that's the kind of thing I was talking about here today. This commission, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to ensure that it's not about, and it's about like looking at ways that can happen. And like, it takes people to recognize that these things are going on and to address it, and then to make that, because that child would have not been in school, he would have lost. And why should a child suffer for, a parent going in and speaking and double that child's suspension? That's not fair. There had to be some interventions. And like, that's what we're talking about. Like, at some point, maybe we never have to do that again if we address it in each instant. Like, it took an outside organization, and the superintendent said, we are so happy that the community took this on because they had support, because they personally didn't think this was a fair thing that went on in that individual school, but they had the community to back that person up. And then there was a child that learned that there's justice in America, that his needs were met, he's back in school. I think that child's life has changed because the community cared about what happened. And that's what we're really talking about here. It'd be a sad day if we don't want people to do that anymore. Like if any child, like if you have a child and that's, going through something in the school that needs community intervention, it needs to happen.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. We need to have more circle conversations about some of these topics, whether it's education or particular aspects of education or history, or whatever it might be that it seems that are being brought to us as controversial topics. So we're not going to solve it all right now, but this is, a step. We're having a step of seeing, hearing from someone that is Native, that doesn't have the same experience that we have necessarily, and that is sharing with us a process that maybe we are not so familiar with. There could be a new way of communicating. So that's sort of what today is about. It's like we're the step one, and we're so grateful that Strong Oak came and offered her time and her energy and knowledge and wisdom. And as we're coming to a close, is there any other business? And then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned, and we are due to reconvene December 1st. Thank you.